Hi there everyone, welcome to this video looking at rounding in maths, and particularly if you look at the types of questions we're going to look at here, rounding to different degrees of accuracy. So we're going to work our way down these, getting progressively more difficult, and I'm going to use some number lines in some of these to help us understand about place value and therefore the size of numbers. So part 1 says 68 to the nearest 10, so we need to round it to the nearest 10, so we're talking about counting in tens. So if we're on 68, we've already got 6 in the tens column. So I would imagine this is going to be somewhere between 60 and 70. So if we used a roughly drawn number line here, there's 60, there's 70, and then 68 appears somewhere along this number line, so we need to decide where it appears nearest to. Now when rounding, we always look at the midpoint, so between 60 and 70 would be 65. Because that kind of gives us our, if you like, our tipping point. When do we round up and when do we leave the number as it is, or do we round down? So 68 appears somewhere over here. So in terms of our number line, it's closer to the 70 end than it is to the 60 end. So to the nearest 10, 60 or 70, the answer would be 70 because it's closer to 70 than it is to 60. The other way you can tell is to look to the digit you want to round to. So to the nearest 10 we're rounding to this digit because that's in the tens column, and that's going to kind of be your cutoff. You're going to round to this digit, but then you're going to use the next digit to decide whether to round up or keep as it is. And the rule that we have, and I'll put this up here, is 5 or more rounds up, but less than that and you keep it as it is, or in terms of our number line we round it down. Okay, right, let's look at our second question then. To the nearest 1,000, so let's have a look at our place value. Units, tens, hundreds and thousands is there, so we're going to be rounding to either, let's have a look at the number here, 27,000, or we're going to round it up to 28,000. So again, using our number line, 27,000 would appear on this end, 28,000 would appear on this end. In the middle we'd have 27,500 because that's halfway between these two numbers, and now we need to place this number. 27,800, so that's bigger than 500, so it's over this end somewhere. So 27,846. So then the easy question, nearer to this end or nearer to this end? So the answer would be 28,000. Again, if you're using this other idea up here that I talked about, to the nearest 1,000 means we're cutting off here. So we're either going to have 27,000 or we're going to round up to 28,000. Look to the next digit. 5 or more rounds up. Well, that's more than 5, so it rounds up to 28,000. Third one, 18.48 to the nearest whole number. So we're talking about whole numbers here. So we're talking about our units and our tens because these are our decimal numbers. They're less than a whole one. So in terms of whole numbers, we're going to have either 18 or we're going to have 19. Our midpoint between them is going to be 18.5. Which side of the line does this one fall? Well, it's 18.48, so it's only just underneath 18.5 because 4's in our tenths column, so that's slightly smaller than 5 in the tenths column. So this would round down to 18. But again, using the other method, whole numbers means we cut off there. So we're either going to have 18 or we're going to round up to 19. Next digit's a 4, and we don't need to worry about this digit at all. We only ever look to the next digit. Because the next digit's less than 5, we keep it as it is, which is where we got our 18 from. And now we look at two trickier ones, and these are really important ones actually because lots of questions at GCSE and further these days ask you to leave your final answer rounded to either decimal places or significant figures. So if you don't know how to do these things, you're going to cost yourself the odd mark here and there with some kind of tougher GCSE questions. So 2 decimal places means the places after the decimal point. So here is 1 decimal place, here is 2 decimal places, and then this number's actually got 3, 4 decimal places. So 2 decimal places means I'm going to cut it off there. So on a number line, I'm either going to have 2.83, because that's what I've already got, or it's going to round up to 2.84. So halfway point is going to be 2.835, and then I look at the next digit, and because it's 5 or more, it rounds up. And if I placed it on my number line, it's going to be just very slightly over, kind of like here. So it's going to get rounded up to 2.84 because it's slightly nearer that end of the number and it's just over halfway. Then the final one, and these are tricky ones. Round 2,783.1276 to two significant figures. Now the first thing to know here is that significant figures are different to decimal places. Decimal places have to be after the decimal point, they're parts of numbers, but significant figures count all the digits as long as, and this is the bit that confuses people, as long as they're digits that aren't zero when you start counting. So reading from left to right as you do, as soon as I hit a number that isn't a zero, I'm going to start counting significant figures. So one significant figure, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this number's actually got 8 significant figures. I want to round to 2, 1, 2, so the cutoff is there. Now, the way I do this, and I'm sure your teacher or you've read in a revision guide or something might explain this slightly differently. Once I've identified the digit I want to round, I use place value to help me. So this is units, this is tens, this is hundreds. So the question's actually asking me, even though it's used this language, it's asking me to round to the nearest hundred. So I'm either going to have 2,700, using again our number line, or I'm going to have 2,800. So that's going to be at the other end of the number line. So there's my number line. There's the two numbers it might be. There's halfway, which will be 2,750. Let's have a look at where this goes. Well, it's in the tens column. There's an 8, which is bigger than 5, so it's going to be over this side somewhere. So that's going to be nearer to 2,800 than it is to 2,700. So using place value there to round to significant figures makes it, I think, a little bit more straightforward. Okay, if you're feeling confident, I've got some questions for you to practice, so I'm going to put them on the screen now. When you're ready, pause the video, have a go at some of these, and then when you're ready, we'll press play and we'll go through some of the answers. Okay, question number 1. 276 to the nearest 10. If you think about our number line, the tens column is there, so it's either going to be 270 or it's going to be 280. Midpoint is 275. 276 is just over, so it's nearer to that end, so the correct answer was 280. 38,742 to the nearest thousand, units, tens, hundreds, thousands, so it's either going to be 8,000 or we're going to round up to 9,000, so we're either going to have 38,000 or 39,000. Let's just sketch a quick number line there. 38,000 or 39,000. Midpoint's 38,500 because we always go to the next place value. This one's 38,000, and then in the hundreds column we've got 7, which is greater than 5, so it's over this side of the line, so it's nearer to this end, so 39,000. 18.74 to the nearest integer. Now this is interesting because we haven't looked at that word in this video. Integer means whole number. So again, we're looking at the whole numbers, which are the tens and the units column, so the cutoff's here. So we're either going to have 18, or the next whole number up is 19. So on a number line, 18 and 19, there's our midpoint, 18.5. This digit's a 7, so I've got a 7 in the tenths column, which is bigger than a 5 in the tenths column, so it's going to be over here somewhere, so it's nearer to this end of the number line, so it's 19. 73.452 to one decimal place. Well, here's our first decimal place, so it's either going to be 73.4 or it's going to round up to 73.5. The next digit is a 5, so it's over halfway, so I'm going to round up, so 73.5. Two decimal places on this one, 1, 2. Remember, we don't count this one because this is a whole number. It's only the places after the decimal, so those two there. So I'm either going to have 0.83 or I'm going to have 0.84. Midpoint, 0.835. Look at our next digit. Now this time it's smaller than 5, so it's this side of the line, so it's going to stay as it is, so we're going to leave it as 0.83. And then the tricky ones to finish with, significant figures, but if we use our place value, these are quite manageable, I think. So two significant figures, so one significant figure, two significant figures is this one here. Think about your place value, units, tens, hundreds, so it's rounding to the nearest 10. So it's either 9 in the tens column, or I'm going to round that up to 10 in the tens column, which obviously is a 0, and then I carry one over into the hundreds. So I'm either going to have 190, or, weirdly saying this, 19 tens, or I'm going to have 200, or 20 tens. So there's my number line. Midpoint 195. Let's have a look at this number. This is 195 point, so it's very, very close, but just over 195. So it's this side of the line, so it's going to get rounded up to 200. And then our final one, two significant figures. 1, 2 is there. units, tens, hundreds, so it's this place value here, so it's thousands, so it's either 23,000 or 24,000. Next digit is a 5, and remember our rule is 5 or more rounds up, so 24,000. And don't make the mistake that I see a lot of students making, just put the 24, because you wouldn't round 23,572 up to 24, would you? Because that's a completely different size number. So think about making sure your place value holders are in there so you keep the size of the number the same. Thanks very much for watching.